I'm Scott Coon. You may know me from my novel Lost Helix, or from my short stories. In this on-writing video, I will be talking about setting, shortcuts, and usage. If you don't clue us in on where and when we are, you end up with floating heads in a void. Even if the dialogue is engaging and reveals conflicting character, you're still leaving your reader with nothing but sound in white space. Also, you are missing out on opportunities for plot and character development through setting. For example, here's a stripped-down version of the opening to my novel, Lost Helix. What do you get when you cross a piranha with a goldfish? Corman refused to acknowledge the absurd question, so Hochstein answered himself. A piranha, because he's going to eat that goldfish. This guy is a goldfish. Corman continued, ignoring him. Hochstein huffed at Corman's silence. He lived with that woman for 3 years. Bringing him into our division is a bad idea. He turned her in. Hochstein loosened his blue and gold tie. He doesn't know that he turned her in. All the better. It shows that Fletcher wasn't working with Brennan. We have attended to Brennan, and Director Bradley has approved Fletcher. End of conversation. In this version, you have no idea where these guys are. You don't even know if they're in the same room or talking over text or what. This could be modern day, somewhere in the near past, or somewhere in the deep future. But as the reader, you don't know. So let's talk about shortcuts to time and place. You can quickly and easily establish time and place. There are shortcuts you can use. For time, the general period can be established with any bit of technology. And I don't mean things like computers and watches. Clothing is a great marker of technology. In Back to the Future series, a future McFly wears his self-sizing jacket while a past McFly is baffled by anyone going without a hat. For good reason, it was the Old West and sun. For a more precise time within a modern era, any element of pop culture can establish time. From 1920 to today, each decade has something unique like zoot suits, parachute pants, or TikTok. For place, make cliches work in your favor. You can give small details and the rest will fill itself in because people know the cliche. You can't build a plot on cliche, but you can build a location. Consider these 2 lines. The hostess presented us with our leather-bound menus. The kid in the paper hat suggested the new discount menu. In both cases, you immediately know you're in a restaurant. But you also know what kind of restaurant you're in. You don't need to describe the tables or the lighting or the other customers. It's all preloaded in the reader's brain. More details can be added as needed while the story unfolds. Does this place do tableside flambe? Is it Italian, French, or Spanish? Do these details even matter? It depends on the story and the scene within the story. Then there's the problem of the unusual. As a sci-fi guy, I feel this a lot. Sometimes you'll need to describe a place that is unusual, perhaps even unique. The trick is to not sound like you're a real estate agent or technician giving a brief. I suggest only giving enough details to bring the reader into the space. You can use the most prominent feature in it as an anchor and build from there. Ask yourself, if I entered this place in the way that my POV character is entering it, what would be the first thing I'd notice? Describe that. Then try to generalize the space around it. Summarize collective details. Then bring in the finer details on an as-needed basis. For example, if I were to describe what I'd see walking onto the bridge of the Enterprise D from Star Trek for the first time, I'd write, a view screen filled the forward wall. Facing it were 2 seated stations with the captain and advisor sitting a few feet behind them. Directly behind the captain's chair was a low, sweeping ramp with workstations built into its wooden railing. The back wall had more standing workstations. Above it all, a skylight into space. And I think that feels natural, and it brings you into there, and it makes you feel like you just stepped off the turbo lift, in my opinion. Perhaps you have a different opinion. Leave comments below. When you must describe an unusual place, you can build in shortcuts to help you when you come back to it in the future. For the Enterprise D, I'd use the view screen and mention whatever was on it, even if it was passing stars or just blank. For a bedroom, it could be a music box on a dresser or a canopy bed. There's another part of setting that some writers forget, and that's people. When setting your scene, don't forget the people. It can be a jarring experience for readers when someone starts talking and they had no idea that person was in the room. This can be a good jarring experience if the character didn't know this person was there either, but if there are 4 people at a kitchen table and you only mention 2 of them for half the scene, when those other 2 chime in, it'll be the bad kind of jarring. When there are only a few people, they can be mentioned individually. Bring them all in as early as possible. Again, this is not a reporter briefing. We don't need a scene manifest. If there are a lot of people in the space, put them there in mass. You can describe them by their behavior, loud or quiet, sitting in rows or mingling about, but make sure that they're there. If you have 2 people in the middle of a ballroom having a conversation, and you don't mention that there's a ball going on around them, then when they suddenly interact with the crowd, that can be jarring. And remember to use setting to enhance your scene. Make sure the setting is a part of the scene, not an insertion. Keep the exposition to a minimum. As much as possible, have the setting come out as part of the action. For example, you don't need to tell us it's winter in the woods if you tell us your characters fighting their way through snow drift and branches. Don't abandon the scenery after the beginning. Keep it in the action. If they're waiting for their takeout order, have them get their napkins and sodas while they wait and talk. If 2 characters are having a heavy conversation, one might escape into the setting, looking at people at another table or out the window for a brief reprieve. The setting doesn't change to suit your emotions, but your view of the setting does. You can be singing in the rain or wallowing in the rain. The rain doesn't care, but you do. Even sunshine can be bent to your will, the warm sun mocking your character's grim mood, for example. You don't want your scene to be overwhelmed by constant references to the setting, but you don't want your character to be floating in a void. Keep the setting in your scene with balance. Here's the same opening to Lost Helix, only with the setting doing its job and contribute to the story and character development. I've left out some internal dialogue to focus on the effects of setting. So if you want to read the full opening to this, go get yourself a copy of Lost Helix. And here's the scene. What do you get when you cross a piranha with a goldfish? Corman refused to acknowledge the absurd question as he stood properly positioned to board the elevator. His trainee, however, stood to his left, blocking any riders who might need to exit. The doors opened to an empty car, but that didn't excuse Hochstein's inefficiency. As Corman entered, Hochstein followed, answering his own question. A piranha, because he's going to eat that goldfish. The doors closed. This guy is a goldfish. Corman continued, ignoring him, and tapped the icon for residential level 9. The elevator shot them out of the corporate center and into the tube connecting it to the rest of Black Mountain Mining Commercial Space Station 4. Hochstein puffed at Corman's silence. He lived with that woman for 3 years. Bringing him into our division is a bad idea. He turned her in. Hochstein loosened his blue and gold tie. He doesn't know that he turned her in. All the better. It shows that Fletcher wasn't working with Brennan. The elevator zoomed into the central shaft of the massive metal box made of thousands of smaller metal boxes. As the elevator came to a stop, Corman moved to the right side of the door. He spared a moment for a stern glance at Hochstein. "We have attended to Brandon, and Director Bradley has approved Fletcher." End of conversation. So you can see where now you know where you are, you know when you are generally, and you have a much better idea of what these guys are all about than if I just left you with a floating void with two heads in it having a conversation. So in conclusion, just a couple of sentences can eliminate the floating heads issue, but treating your setting like a character can enrich the writing, build character, and even advance the plot. Always remember your setting is there and your character should interact with it, but don't over-describe it. Let your readers do some of the work. After all, that's why they picked up a book instead of turning on a movie. If they wanted everything fed to them, the setting would be right there on the screen for them, but they're reading words on a page and processing it in their head. I hope you found this video on setting entertaining and informative. On ScottCoonSciFi.com and on my YouTube channel, please check out my monthly video newsletter for writing contests, writing news, and more. Don't forget to check out my sci-fi adventure novel, Lost Helix, which you just heard a little clip of, and it's a much fuller version of that opening. If you get the book, please get the book. Also, read my short stories in the anthologies Alien Gaze and It Came From Her Purse. All 3 books are on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. Now check out my playlist of animated short story readings or my other on-writing videos. And please like and subscribe. Until next time, if you're a reader, read. And if you're a writer, submit!